Okay, and now, in theory, we are live for the Governance Committee meeting. The main purpose of this meeting is to do the annual policy review and with the intention of, addressing any changes we think we need to these policies and then making a recommendation to the full board, who will do a policy resolution early next year, I believe, to do everything all at once. So basically, Gwen, just for background, each of the committees has a set of policies that they need to review on an annual basis. And this is the Governance Committee's series of policies. Most of them are pretty much based on state templates and are compliant with state law. We did work with the lawyers when we originally set these up, and not much has changed since they were set up, with the exception the whistleblower policy adjusted a little bit, but for the most part, things have changed not at all in terms of these policies. So I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know if you want to go through each of these one by one, or if you just want to kind of, if there's any policies in particular that you've noticed anything strange about. But they're pretty standard.
I know, Tracy, that there was an overhaul a few years ago that really kind of put us in compliance with the Paris recording. And I remember that being a huge thing and kind of put us in line, because I know before, we weren't exact. It's not that we were not in compliance, but the state was very much making authorities and agencies, the IDAs, get more uniform in their look and reporting to the state. So I know that Andrew and you put a lot of work into getting this to where it is now, and I know over the last few years we haven't really made any changes. If we have, it's been very minor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just from my history on here, Gwen, that's what I've remember when I first got on. There was just compliance issues with the state.
Right. And I guess the only other thing I would ask you, Tracy, is in real time, are the policies is written doing what you need them to do for AIDA?
Most of these policies we haven't had to use, luckily.
Thank God. That would be a beautiful thing in the case of a couple of them.
Luckily, we haven't needed the whistleblower, and we haven't needed indemnification and those kinds of things. But,
right.
I think that they're sufficient to do what we need them to do should we need them. And, I think the last change we made to the whistleblower policy was including the phone number for, or clarifying what the options are for somebody, including the phone number to a state agency to make reports if someone's not comfortable reporting internally. So that one we made a little bit more robust, but I think it's sufficient now for our purposes, and provides those options to make sure that people feel comfortable, that they have an option that they feel comfortable with.
Right.
Otherwise, I think that these do what they're supposed to do. They keep us in compliance with state law, and the ones that we should need, I think, are pretty well developed for what our purposes are.
And then the local labor policy is a separate piece that's connected to the application process, correct?
Correct.
So we'll talk about that at the general meeting.
Yeah. So that's a policy that's not part of the state compliance. It's something that we did, separate from. But that's kind of separate from this set of policies. But we do have the adjusted, the edited version to discuss tonight.
Great. Okay. I'm good to go. So what you need us to do?
Are you two comfortable making a recommendation to the board that these policies are carried forward as presented?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I would say that's a yes between me and my buddy Terry.
Fair enough. Well, then that's all we needed. So Terry, we were also talking previously that should we have time tonight, when we get to the item on the agenda for the governance committee report, should we have time to start talking about those priorities that this body or this group had come up with previously, we can do that tonight as well. Terry, you muted.
So tonight, are we going to vote moving forward on the on with the governance committee? I mean, our recommendation. Are we going to mention that tonight? And
Yeah,
are we going to vote on it tonight?
No,
Okay,
so we
good.
won't vote on the policies tonight, but we'll put forward the recommendation on the policies.
So in the beginning of the next year, that's when we actually vote on them.
Yeah, so we have the all three committees do their policy review, and once they've all done the policy review, we do one resolution for all the policies.
Okay, great. Yeah. So we just recommend this now, and then the finance.
Yeah.
And
and audit. Yep.
Audit. I was going to say accounting, but audit.
It's practically the same thing.
That's why I didn't say accounting. I'm like, I think it's something else, but all right.
Yeah.
So we do want us to just sit tight and wait for the meeting to start, or okay.
So I will pause the streaming for a minute, and we will wait for the rest of the board to come in with the regular board meeting.
All right.
Okay. So we are good to go on a technology standpoint whenever you're ready, Jim.
Okay. The Auburn Industrial Development Authority meeting will come to order. Roll call, please.
I'll do that. Mr. Dacey,
Here.
Mr. Andre,
Present.
Mr. Gasper,
Here.
Mr. Beer,
Here.
Mr. Cuddy. Oh, he's here. Mr. Giantino.
Here.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm here.
I'm going to say your name wrong again. I just asked you last month about this. Mr. Gravis? Is that right?
That was correct. I am here.
I got it this time.
Very nice.
Mr. Lavarnway is excused. Miss Weber McLeod.
Here.
I believe that is it.
Okay. I'm still waiting for the agenda to print out. What's the next thing on the agenda, Tracy?
Minutes from August 19th.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the minutes?
I will move. Bill Andre?
Second, please. Any discussion, changes? Brandon? Did you have a change?
No,
I was seconding.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions carried. Next item.
Bills and communications, there are none.
Okay. Then I think we go to Roger for the,
Financial, there's a,
for the,
the profit and loss budget performance page is in your package, about 8 pages down. If you can see that, I will tell you, basically minimal activity this month. We took in $500 of administrative fee income, $23 of interest income, no expenses. But I think the only thing I would point out is at the bottom of the schedule there, there's an amount there for cash in our savings account, which is substantially up now, as I had mentioned before. That will be the source of funds available to us related to the branding process that we're going to be going through. I guess I'd also point out, just for housekeeping purposes, is that when that money is spent, it's kind of a little bit of an interesting accounting thing. You can actually show a website as a capital asset on your financial reports. So we will have spent the money, which is the outflow of cash, which is always tough, but you won't see an expense. We will expense that website over a 3 to 5 year period. So I just want to make you aware of that. That shouldn't impact us, because we essentially, in reality, operate on a cash basis. But if we were a major company, they would prefer that, because you get to bring on an asset and not incurring expense over a period of time. Anybody have any questions on that? I don't want to get any more into the weeds than that.
okay.
So steady as you go as far as the profit and loss through the end of August.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the budget report and balance sheet?
So moved. Terry.
Any further discussion or changes that anybody wishes to make? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unfinished business. What's that?
Just got an echo.
Unfinished business. Oh, I'm getting an echo. Aren't I? Let me just try something. Unfinished business. Auburn Place-based branding proposals. Tracy?
So since the last meeting, we had our subcommittee, Gwen, Terry, and Roger, with myself and Devin, meet with the 3 firms as recommended. And who wants to make the recommendation?
You ready for a recommendation?
We do have a recommendation to make. Gwen, do you want to do it?
Sure, and I would let you provide the background. So we did our subcommittee interviewed the 3 firms. They were Agenda, DCI, and TGW. And I think after a lot of good questions, reflection, respectful, heated debate, and then really inviting the team, Tracy and her team, to really look at this in the context of which of these firms that they believe would do best. We narrowed it down, the committee did, to DCI and TGW, and after another in-depth review and I had a heart and gut check, Tracy and the AIDA staff is recommending that we engage TGW to do the place-based branding project for our organization. And then Tracy, I would love for you to give any additional background.
Yeah, so all 3 of these firms are very capable and they're experienced and passionate. DCI would be a great choice for this. This is what they do. But when it comes right down to it, TGW has relationships with stakeholder groups in the community. They understand the branding and marketing that's already being done. And in really digging in, they do have business clients and they do B2B marketing. So we are feeling a lot more comfortable about their ability to reach that business audience that we are looking for from an attraction standpoint. So in getting comfortable with that and getting confident with that, they have a great energy. They understand our community already. They're really going to be able to hit the ground running and bring our stakeholders along with them in the process. So those are kind of some of the main points. It isn't anything against any of the other firms. They're all great. They're all capable and experienced, but we felt that this extra value that their local experience brings to the table is going to serve us well in the long-term success. Devin, if you want to add anything, please.
No, I agree with everything. With the follow-ups that we did a couple follow-ups with DCI and TGW, just to sort of clear up any questions or concerns that we had. Both of them answered our questions, and it was a very difficult decision. It was a little bit of back and forth. First it was one, then it was the other. But in the end, TGW brings a pretty strong package to AIDA, I think, and I think they have a nice vision for ongoing campaigns and support down the road, which is important, at least to me, from a marketing coordinator perspective. And their creative is amazing. What they're able to do, what they've shown us, like Tracy said, their experience in the B2B realm, that's very important. So they check all the boxes in the end.
Tracy, can you also speak to the fact there was a little bit of question as to who owns the website once the project is underway, and I felt it seemed like we felt more comfortable with the arrangement with TGW, plus the fact there was a substantial annual fee that was going to be charged by DCI.
Yeah, so on that front, I think in both cases, we own the content and the website. It's just with DCI, it comes with this, it's hosted by them, and you're kind of not locked in, but very much kind of in their system. under extenuating circumstances, you can take that website and host it elsewhere, but really it fits best within their server. So they do kind of keep you in that server as much as possible. They are negotiable on the maintenance fees, but even so, it was quite expensive on an annual basis. TGW is very flexible about this. They can host it, but it's a little bit more like what we're used to, and they're a little bit more flexible about how we operate the website side of it. But in both cases, AIDA would own the brand, would own the website, would be able to update content, and the firms would provide kind of basic maintenance and follow-up from that perspective.
And you were also able to satisfy yourself in terms of TGW's reasonably wide access to site selectors. I think that was something that you had brought up, and you've been able to satisfy yourself about that.
I have. So they, in kind of following up with them multiple times since our last meeting, I've learned more about their existing client base and the networks that they're in. And then also talking to like Stephanie from BID, I'm pretty confident that they will find a way to do, like, I'm confident they can get the business perspective and that outside business perspective that we're looking for. I think site selectors is still a little bit out of their wheelhouse, but I think they're going to be able to find a way to make that happen if they don't already have those connections. They're very resourceful from what I understand, and, they feel confident. They use the term 100% confident that they can make that happen, and it does seem like they have some good leads to do that. So after kind of talking to them a couple more times and really just, I apologize for like harping on it with them, because I don't know, if I was them, I might be offended by the time I got done with them, but they took it all in stride, and they really pointed to some of those relationships they have that will help them get this done.
Terry?
Okay.
May I add?
Anybody?
Yes, Jim, if I
Go
may.
ahead.
Also being on the subcommittee, one of the things that attracted me to TGW is that in their proposal, they did include photography and a web, photography and video work. So that would help out quite a bit. Not only just for, AIDA's purposes, but I would say like any, for other ways to promote the city and its assets. So I thought that was one of the value added benefits that, in their proposal that interested me. So, but again, I think, as I said in the subcommittee meeting, all the requests for proposals were great. And it is a testament to Devin and Tracy's ability to put out such a good RFP that we did get three really top-notch firms to respond. And it was a very difficult choice. And I just wanted to say that, good work, Devin and Tracy on the RFP.
I echo what Terry says. I would say, for emphasis, that DCI and TGW ended up being clearly the two best. I would say that was a feeling that we had. And I guess the only one last comment I'll make, unless we are going to discuss this later on, is one of the key aspects of the process will be them doing an R&D effort of understanding what Auburn's all about and talking to a bunch of diverse stakeholders throughout the community. That I see as being a extremely crucial part of the process, and that a goodly amount of representative stakeholders will be a key asset or a key part of the process to have available to them, to TGW.
Also, the documentation would be great for us too, down the road, having that information. Before I ask for a motion, I would like to thank the subcommittee for their efforts in you did a wonderful job, and obviously you looked into this very closely and put a lot of thought into it. It's much appreciated. Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor to accept TGW? Is that it, TG? Second, Roger. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. And again, thank you very much for your effort. Okay. The review of the local labor policy. Where did Bill go?
We did it.
I'm here, Jim.
Oh, okay.
Did you miss me, Jim?
Hi. Well, I was hoping that Bill would have something to say about that.
Yeah, I always have something to say about this. I read this, I think it was last week when Tracy sent it to us, or Taylor sent it to us, and the changes, I'm fine with, and I've always thought, I don't know what Tracy thinks because she works closer with it than I do. I've always thought it was a problem with us not making the companies live up to their obligations. But I do think there's some changes here that could help. I think it makes it more straightforward, easier to read. But if you look at that second paragraph that starts with in consideration, if you look down in the red, where it says applicant must submit documentation of a good faith effort to procure local labor with the waiver request form, a good faith effort. And that's what I don't know if we ever have with a lot of these jobs. I mean, definitely the car wash guy, he got the best of us. The Auburn Floors building got the best of us. And, so we got to do a better job. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but we have to do a better job making sure people do it. I was going this afternoon down North Street, got to the corner of North and Seymour, and I looked at the trucks that were doing K&S Car Wash. And that's why I do business with K&S Car Wash. Every truck I saw there at that particular time was Auburn, not necessarily union. And I think you always get the best work with union laborers, but they were Auburn people. And they're always good. They're good people. So sometimes you get lucky when it's somebody like that, and they're the people that we want because they're local people, the Cuba County people. And then sometimes you get the out-of-town people like the guy at the auto wash on Grand Ave that started out in Canandaigua, and he just doesn't care. So I'm happy with the changes in this. I appreciate Rob. Was it Rob that put it together, right, Rob?
It was a joint effort.
Okay.
Me
So,
and Tracy.
Rob and Tracy, I appreciate it. So, I'm fine with it, but we just have to really get after the companies to make sure that, I don't want to drive by another project and see a paving company from 585 area code when we've got them. I think we've got a variety of them in Auburn and Cuba County. So I think we just have to hold people to a higher standard.
So, Bill, I think the whole point of the changes that we made was to put more of that control into the board's hand. And, it is, if someone comes with a waiver and the good faith documentation, it is up to, it provides the board a chance to say, you know what, you really need to do more. There's other people you need to contact before we do this. And, that kind of puts a little bit more of that decision making back into the board's hands rather than, kind of getting back into a corner of approving a waiver before we know whether or not they're going to be able to get the labor. So I think part of the point of this is to really bring that, be able to kind of control what that good faith effort is and approve waivers based on what the board believes is a good faith effort.
I agree.
I know we probably have brought this up in the past, and I think logistically there were some issues, but I feel like I should bring it up again. and Bill, you may be able to help on this, but maybe having a list of contractors, whether they're union or local, that would fit into the purview of like a construction or plumbing or roofing or blacktop or paving. I mean, would it be beneficial to basically say, here are the vendors that are in the immediate area, could you please, look at this, or would there be an issue with doing that? Is it problematic to do that?
You might remember a couple
I did send Tracy a list. I don't know how helpful it was to her. And I tried getting.
Who was that?
Had a birdie in the house. So, did that list help you, Tracy?
Yes, you might remember I sent out the link to a page. It's not published on AIDA's website yet. It still needs a little bit of work. We haven't done much work on it since we sent it. Gwen, it looks like we might be getting an echo from you.
The biggest problem I see with that, Terry, is that if it's not up to date or somebody's left off, it can do less or more damage than good. So it's something that has to be maintained on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
I don't know how we could do that to make sure it's up to date, but I could see that as being a problem.
So we did start the list. We're going to put a contact form on there. So if someone wants to be added, they can request to be added. It's just, like I said, we need to add a few more contractors. We need feedback from you on if we're missing people. Bill, the link you sent me is on that site for the union piece of things. So that list is in development, and we can put it live on the website as soon as we're comfortable with the list that's there. I think Jeff recommended putting some IT consulting, and because that might be part of a construction, like setting up networks and things like that. So we can add a section for that. But yeah, so your feedback on that list would be very helpful before we put it live, so that it's not us working in a vacuum trying to identify everybody.
Could you just say something about the section that talks about that the applicant understands the local labor policy and agrees to submit the utilization form every 90 days and or at the completion of the construction portion of the project? Why did we add the and or piece of that? And it might just because I don't understand the process, but that seemed counterintuitive to me a little bit. If our goal is to be monitoring whether or not they're really doing it.
Some of the construction projects are pretty quick. Some of them might be less than 90 days, depending on what they're doing.
Okay.
I think that this is to you, Rob. Should we consider a clause in there that we're not responsible for making sure that the companies are insured, and something to do with that, so that it can't come back on us? If somebody gets a company that's not insured, and then that they back out and they're out money.
Maybe that's something to put as a disclaimer on the site where the list is.
Yeah, I would see that as a disclaimer on the site,
That's a good idea.
Well, should we put something like that?
It's really up to, I can't see it ever coming back on the authority. I don't think there's any scenario where that would happen. But I think the place for it would be on the website.
Okay.
I can't see it hurting.
No, it definitely doesn't hurt anything. Certainly as a belt and suspenders sort of move, it doesn't hurt anything.
Well, it's a suing society, so.
Oh, definitely. Just because you won't ultimately be held liable doesn't mean somebody won't try.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the labor policy as written?
I will move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you.
Thank you,
CEDA
everyone.
staff update.
Oh, forgot about this part. So
Hi, Taylor.
this is
Hi,
Taylor.
how are you?
Taylor, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
So I'm Taylor Symes. I am, as Bill stated earlier, I originally worked at Empower, so I transferred here August 24th. So we're creeping on a month that I've been here with CEDA. I'm the new tech specialist. And pretty much I'm basically from the Auburn area. I bring around my banking background to this position, so I transferred here to help out with the technical aspect of loans and whatnot. Besides that, you guys can see me out in the community with my son. So I do live right here in town, so I do know the area very well.
Very nice young lady. I'll miss you in power.
You might still see me in Empower. I'm there quite enough still.
Yeah. So happy to have Taylor, and you'll be hearing more from her in future meetings. Other than that, we are starting to, well, place-based branding, that's happening. Thanks, everybody. And then under upcoming events, you'll see that we're doing another CEDA 101. This one is about state procurement processes and the state procurement system. This we're doing with the Office of General Services. It's going to be a two-part webinar. If you know any small businesses in particular that may be interested in working with the state and doing business with the state, this is going to be a really good overview and a chance to ask questions and walk through that process to understand what the potential challenges and pitfalls are, as well as what the potential opportunities are. We want to make sure that, you know, our businesses are aware of these opportunities and that they're in the systems that they need to be in, but we also want to make sure that they understand what they need to do to be ready for those types of contracts, because, you know, we've seen businesses, you know, have struggle with cash flow because maybe the state would take a little bit longer to pay than they would expect, or whatever the case may be. So we want businesses to be prepared for the realities of doing business with the state, and not jump into anything without really understanding what they need to have in place. So it's going to be 2.5 hours total, 1 hour on October 6th and an hour and a half on October 8th. They will be recorded. If someone can only make one of them, we're going to record them and send them out to everybody who's registered. So someone can register anyway, even if they know they can only make one of the 2 sessions. And then the registration link should be coming out in the next couple of days. So just keep an eye on that, because I think it's going to be a good opportunity for some of our smaller businesses to start to understand these major contracts. And the same systems are the systems that our local municipalities use. So there may be a component of being able to get into more local procurement with the school district and the city and the county, towns, you know, so they all use the same state procurement system for a lot of their purchases. So it's a good way to be able to start localizing some of that procurement as well. Because when I was going out talking to the city and the school district about procurement and localizing procurement, they kept saying, go talk to OGS. You know, people need to be in that system. So this is what we're trying to do, get people in that system. So no more excuses. And so it could just be a good opportunity for some of our businesses to get to know this. We are getting ready we're already starting to get ready for our next our next economic forecast luncheon coming up in January, looking for a speaker for that, and getting into the county contracting stage of the year. So that's all good and fun too. So yeah.
Tracy, since you mentioned the place-based branding, this is probably out of order, but could you, as we sum up, give us an idea of what the timing is going to be for expectation of when it might be completed, and also 10 words or less what it's going to cost us?
Yes. If we can get started right away, the idea would be to this month or next month start getting these initial meetings to hone in on a cost structure. They did provide a range, so we have to make some decisions to hone in on a specific number. But if we can get that worked through and we're comfortable with those numbers, we anticipate being able to launch the new brand potentially early 2021. And they would be providing some ongoing support for the following months in terms of launching it. So the cost is still TBD, but it would be within the range that's in the proposal.
So the midpoint, I believe, was about 80,000. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm trying to find it now. It's here somewhere.
That's fine. I just wanted to ballpark it for just to remind everybody of the level of investment that we're embarking upon.
Yes, it is extensive. It's probably the last page. I don't know why I didn't just jump back there. Of course, it is the last
Tracy,
page.
You're looking for that, is there any, as you talk to them, is there any discussions around getting pricing for, say, a year from launch and then 2 years out as a refresh period? Or I know that's something we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there, but obviously content, keeping it fresh, keeping it up to speed will be important too. Investing so much now, we want to make sure it's something along longevity.
Yeah, so they included in their proposal, which the middle ground is 80 to 85. They included in the range an estimated kind of they're suggesting a 2 to 6 month period of support to at least get the brand launched. They want to make sure that they're involved to help get that launched and stabilized before we start doing a little bit more of that work on the internal side. They obviously also want to have a long-term relationship with AIDA should AIDA want to continue that relationship. A lot of some of the refreshing of content will happen in-house once we get things launched, but we will rely on their support in the very beginning phases for some of that marketing and PR to get the brand out there and to the markets that we're looking to get it to.
Thank you.
Terry, it was brought up. It was brought up at the last meeting. If there's any interest on the city's part to help defray the cost on this, did you have that discussion?
No, but I think that and I don't want to speak for the city. And I've talked to other members of AIDA privately. I kind of see this as AIDA investing in purely the business element of it. Jimmy, if you want to pipe in, but I think that one of the reasons why Auburn, the city, got out of the economic development aspect of it is that, to put more, to have the experts like CETA and ourselves, make these decisions. Now, it was, I think it's the right decision to invest in our own promotion, but we are, from my perspective, I think that this is something that we could do here on our own. with AIDA. That's
Well,
me.
That what was brought up early on when we first started talking about this. It was driven by the city councilors that this would be advantageous to AIDA and to the city, and that's why I requested a month ago if, in fact, you could have that discussion with the city to see if they're willing to do something. Apparently, that hasn't taken place.
No, it hasn't. And frankly, I really think that, unless this board doesn't find value in, putting $80,000 towards attracting business, I really think that, there's a reason why there's AIDA and there's a reason why there's the city council. And I think that, the city is, we're doing what we can, and what the planning and economic development department at the city is basically put AIDA and CETA in as the one-stop shop for the promotion.
I'm not looking for a history lesson. What I'm asking you is, if in fact, as requested, you have had that discussion. You have not had that discussion. I would appreciate it if you would, so we could put it to bed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can certainly have that discussion, Jim. I apologize. I must have misunderstood. I thought you were asking what our position was when you asked that question. And I apologize if I misunderstood you, but I will speak for myself. I'm in agreement with Councilor Cuddy. What we do have to offer, and this will be part of my conversation with our colleagues, is the work that's already been done with the contract that we have with TGW, because we oversee and manage the Welcome Center. And we secured a Market New York grant. We had matching funds that we had to put towards that. That's where that money came from. So we've already invested money, and some of that material can be used. And the other thing is, I think we all have to be conscious of the fact that we are in very, very, very dire financial times right now. Our budget was passed based on aid that was promised us by the state, and the governor cut it, I think, 3 weeks later by $1 million, and we don't know where that money is going to come from. And as I'm sure you're aware, the federal government doesn't really have an appetite to help us right now. So again, I apologize if I misunderstood your request. We can certainly bring that back to the rest of council tomorrow night and talk to them about it, and we can get back to you.
I would appreciate that, and then we can put it to bed. Okay? Thank you. Is there any further discussion on...
Jen, I just had something I wanted to, this is Gwen, I just wanted to say something to Tracy. Tracy, I think there was a request for our board to see some sort of timeline. And part of what I would be interested in, too, from TGW is, what is the wraparound communication strategy for us, AIDA, to be introducing them as the firm into the community? I think your article did a great job at setting the stage for the fact that we were going to do this, but I know part of what we were discussing throughout the process was the importance of whoever the firm was figuring out how they were going to onboard themselves with key people in the community so that when they get into their development phase. So I think that a lot of times with these kinds of firms, being strategically focused on technically what we're asking them to do on the product becomes what they do. But I think the critical piece of this, and I think this is something that I would offer would do in partnership with you, would be to define in that timeline how and they're going to onboard themselves as the firm for this specific project into the community. Because as you know, I think it's related, but not the same kind of work as they're doing now. And I just think that that's really critical, and that we also be apprised of that, so that as we're out and about, we know what those benchmarks are, what that time frame is going to be. And because I think that the minute a firm gets engaged, I have a firm, my own, that I think it's important that we set the stage for the work, clarify the differentiation between what they're doing for AIDA and what they're doing for the tourism industry here, and also be understanding how they're going to be getting into relationship and paving the way for other entities that they'll need to engage for this project that they're not currently maybe dealing with for the tourism piece. So if they can just reflect that in their timeline, I think that would be beneficial to the board.
Yeah, and I think all of that's also going to be part of kind of the initial meeting with this group with TGW to start setting the stage for that as well. So we might also have to set up kind of a separate meeting to speak with them ahead of our next meeting. I don't know if we want to wait a whole month to kind of start that process. So when I speak with them tomorrow, I'll definitely include that request and start to talk about timelines in terms of when we need to get this group in a room with them, or in a room like this with them to make some of those decisions and set some of those strategies.
And you're saying our board would be the group in the room with them too. And I think I also heard you say that you might consider having, when we were talking about this before, I suggested possibly a steering committee to work with them. And so I would invite you to, as you're figuring this out, to also consider that piece, since we're asking them to do something they have the capacity to do, but we haven't necessarily seen them do this way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then that way we can ensure that whatever the board is looking for is really being moved through, and also make sure that we are aware of any other technical assistance or support they might need to do some of the things we're asking them to do. Because we all have networks and connections as well with that business research piece. Thanks.
And I think that there's kind of an initial conversation with the full board. And to your point, I think there's a space to have a smaller committee work along with them a little more actively to keep them in the lane, and to your point, make sure that we're getting the results that we're looking for. And make those introductions. That's a big one too.
Tracy, do you think that they will be interviewing the board individually?
I think they will have a conversation with this board as one of their first conversations. Yes.
As a group?
As a group, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I would imagine. I can work that through with them tomorrow in case I'm making assumptions, but my understanding was that it would be a group. There would be a meeting with this whole board, and that would kind of be that first stakeholder to kind of set the scope of the project and move forward from there.
Well, if in fact that they want to do the individual board members, it might be advantageous to have them give us a list of questions they may ask, so that we can expedite this when they do speak to the individual board. If in fact they do.
Yep.
Okay. Nobody else have anything to discuss on that? Is there any board members that wish to report on anything that they've been involved in or wish to speak about? Terry?
Yes, Jim, thank you. Tracy, is now a good time to say that we want to move forward that we've reviewed the governance committee, the bylaws and the policies, and we just want to just say that we reviewed it, the governance committee reviewed it, and we intend to move it forward early next year for approval.
Yeah, you're right. I missed that, Terry.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine.
So, like all the other committees, governance went through their policies today. I think next month is finance. I want to say.
Not sure.
Yeah, next month is finance. They'll do their policy review. So, but the feeling this afternoon was that these policies were in pretty good shape for what we need them for. So.
Okay.
And then on that note, we also wanted to say, kind of redouble our efforts. I know it's been a busy past few months, but Jim, Gwen, and myself met a few months back and went over some priorities, some kind of prioritization criteria for how we may, I guess, have like a checklist, for lack of a better term, when going over applications, and for different kinds of businesses that would come to AIDA for incentives. So what I wanted to put forth is, I think Tracy's going to email us those suggestions, and if we could, in the next AIDA meeting, general regular meeting, if we can spend some time on some of the things that were brought up by Jim, Gwen, and myself, and some input that has been initiated by the regular general board too. So, do you want to add anything, Jim or Gwen or Tracy, to that?
That's a good idea it's a good idea that we move forward with that.
Mhm. I think we should do, and Tracy, I think, the list that we got emailed today was really just our stream of thoughts. I think it would be helpful to the board and I think we talked about this before we embarked on this project, if you could restate maybe in an opening statement on the document that what we are doing is something that other IDAs have been doing across the country in terms of just creating this list of criteria. I think it'll help the board be able to take a look at this if they have a context for it.
Good point.
Sure, I'll add that.
Thank you.
We'll take a look at our upcoming agendas, Tracy, and see if we can fit that in within the next month or two.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can fit it in for October. We've been trying for a few months now, so I think we can sneak it back in.
That'd be great. Unless we have 5 pilots to work on.
I can only hope so.
Yeah. Yes.
I might cry, but it would be a good sign.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they wish to discuss or add?
I just got a quick question.
Sure, Jim.
Tracy, do you have an update on Tessie?
Not really. Each of the times that we, try to get an update, they rely on the NDA that they have with the client. So they're being pretty tight-lipped about where things are in the project at this point. So I can see that things are moving forward, and it does look like they're moving forward. The construction has gone forward just from driving by, but I don't have a good solid update on where they are at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, construction-wise and hiring-wise.
Yeah, it seems like they're starting to get into the hiring, but it's kind of hard to tell.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, please. Carrie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?